welcome to the third edition of Citizen Debates. We are focusing on county number 34, that is Kajiado County. We have 4 of the leading candidates in the gubernatorial race with us tonight. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. I'll be co-moderating this debate alongside...
Nimrotabu wananiita mimi. Karibu sana mtazamaji popote pale ulipo. Kama alivyosema mwenzangu kwamba tunazamia kaunti ya Umasaini, kaunti ya Kajiado, lakini ni kaunti ambayo imevutia makabila mengi tu watu wanaoishi katika sehemu hiyo. Ni kaunti ambayo imepakana na kaunti kadha wa kadha. Ni vile vile kaunti yenye maeneo bunge 5. Tutakuwa tunakuarifu mengi zaidi, na vile vile kuna wodi 25 katika kaunti hiyo. Wanaowania ugavana katika kiti cha ugavana wapo pamoja nasi, na tunataka kuanza kwa kuwatambulisha hivi sasa, tukianza naye gavana Joseph Ole Lenku, gavana wa pili katika kaunti hii ya Kajiado. Akiweza kuanza kuingia, ni gavana ambaye amewahi kuwa waziri vile vile wa usalama hapa nchini. Bila shaka atakuwa anatueleza katika miaka 5 hii ameweza kutimiza nini na kwa nini anahitaji tena kupewa nafasi ya muda wa miaka 5. Wa pili basi tutakuwa tunamkaribisha, amekuwa mbunge katika eneo bunge la Kajiado Kusini, si mwingine ila ni bwana Katoo Ole Metito. Wengi wanamfahamu tu katika masuala yake ya siasa, na hivi sasa ameazimia kwamba hatapigania tena kiti cha ubunge, bali atakuwa anataka kiti kikubwa kusimamia county na vile vile kwa ujumla maeneo bunge yote 5.
That's right. We have a former Kajiado Governor, Dr. David Nkedienye, running on a Jubilee ticket. And of course, he's looking to finish what he started as the pioneer governor of Kajiado County. He has many promises that he has, of course, pledged for the constituents and electorate of Kajiado County. Last but not least, we have Mr. Ambrose Nganga Kago, who is running as an independent ticket. And we'll, of course, be hearing from him on his commitments. He's a former Kiserian councillor between the years of 2002 and 2007. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time. And of course, to our viewers, if you have any questions, comments, reach out to us on our SMS line 22422 and online on Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Citizen Debates.
Naam, kama ilivyo ada mtazamaji na pia wagombea, tunazo sheria na kanuni ambazo zitakuwa muhimu tuweze kuzifuata ili tuweze kuwa na kipindi kizuri. Kwa hivyo tunaomba kwa dakika moja tutakapokuwa tunaanza, mtueleze kwa nini mumewania kiti cha ugavana. Nafikiri fursa nzuri hii, tuanze na wewe Mheshimiwa Joseph Ole Lenku. Kitu gani ambacho kinakufanya utake kuwa gavana japo umekuwa gavana tayari?
Asante sana. Ni muhimu niwaambie Wakenya na watu wa Kajiado kwamba niligombea kiti cha gavana mwaka wa 2017 kwa msingi ya kuunganisha kaunti yetu, ambayo wakati hiyo ilikuwa inapitia mgawanyiko kwa sababu ya uongozi uliokuwa hapo awali, na waomba niendelee kuhakikisha kwamba safari tumeanza ya kuunganisha kaunti na kuleta maendeleo haijakamilika. Baadhi ya maendeleo tumesiweka msingi bora, tunahitaji kukamilisha ujenzi wa hiyo nyumba ambayo ndio Kajiado County. Na ndio basi tuko hapa leo kuja kuwaeleza yale tumefanya na yale tunakisia kufanya, wananchi wakinipatia ruhusa tena. Asante sana.
Mheshimiwa Metito, vile vile kwa dakika moja tu, kwa nini unawania kiti cha ugavana?
Can I use English? Thank you very much. Nimotrabu, this is Katoo Ole Metito. I've been the MP for Kajiado South for the last 20 years, and I was also a minister in this government of Kenya. The first term I was an assistant minister, second term I was an assistant minister and a full cabinet minister, third term I was the chief whip of the ruling party, fourth term I was the chair of a departmental committee of Defense and Foreign Relations. And I want to fight for governor of Kajiado County because it is totally in a mess. It has really lost direction. I want to give new ideas, fresh leadership to save the county from sanity. And that's why I want to really ask the people of Kajiado County to vote for Katoo Ole Metito.
Asante.
Daktari, in a minute or less, tell us why you'd want to be a governor of Kajiado County.
Nashukuru sana kwa nafasi hii, na ningependa kusema kwamba mwaka wa 2013-17 nilikuwa gavana wa kwanza, niliweka msingi kaunti ya Kajiado na nilifanya kazi nyingi sana. Kuna kazi ambazo hazikukamilika kama maktaba pale Kajiado, kama stadium ya Ngong na miradi mingine mingi ambayo kama tanari pale Isinya. Nataka kuwania hicho kiti tena kwa sababu naona huduma ambayo inatolewa pale Kajiado imezorota kabisa. Ningependa kurudisha kaunti ya Kajiado kwenye mkondo. Mataa yamezimika, hospitali hakuna dawa. Nataka kuja kufanya kazi. Mimi watu wananijua kama mtenda kazi, narudi kutoa huduma kwa watu. Wakinipa nafasi tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 na wania hiki kiti ili niweze kufanya kazi kwa watu wa Kajiado.
Asante sana.
Mr. Kago, your submission as to why you'd want to be governor of Kajiado.
Yeah, my submission to why I want to be a governor of Kajiado. One thing is like I have seen there is unfair distribution of resources in Kajiado, and the other thing is that we have some municipalities in Kajiado County, and these municipalities, there are 3, they have not been given the independence and the autonomy of doing their work. Looking at the infrastructures, that is the schools, and the school is like the nursery school or elementary primary schools, the technical schools, and also we would like to create wealth in Kajiado. There are also small and medium enterprises, small business there, which needs to be catered for and encouraged through the funding of the county. There is promotion. I'm seeing like health care is another problem. Our hospitals are really depatriated, and when you look at them, they miss a lot of facilities, especially the medicines and other facilities for the doctors.
Asante.
Those are the things that I'm looking
Asante
at.
sana. Bila shaka tutakuwa tunaendelea kwa mapana na marefu, lakini nilikuwa tumekupa dakika moja. Kwa hivyo kwa kifupi tu, wawaniaji ugavana kiti cha Kajiado, kwa heshima tungependa kuwa tuwape dakika mbili katika kila swali ambalo tutakuwa tunauliza. Ijapo kama ilivyo desturi katika mdahalo ama mazungumzo kama haya, kuna 2 matatu ambao mwenzako atasema ambao pengine utataka kujibu. Kwa hivyo tutatoa dakika moja tu. Ikiwa umelengwa wewe na swali kupitia kwa mwanaji mwingine, basi utumie dakika moja tu ili tuweze angalau kuzungumzia sekta nyingi tofauti. Nampisha mwenzangu atuanzishie safu hii ya mazungumzo.
Thank you, Nimrod. Let's begin with the education sector. And as we know, the pastoral communities often are affected when it comes to retaining their children in schools. I'll start with you, Governor Lenku, in terms of how you intend to retain students from ECD all the way to secondary school level.
Thank you. As you are aware, the ECD function falls under the county government. I will directly want to focus on that. The people of Kajiado are aware that we inherited a situation in ECD where all the teachers, about 400 of them, were on what they were calling them caregivers, like workers for a home, paid about 5,000-7,000 shillings. I am happy that we laid a foundation that transferred all those teachers to permanent and pensionable employment for all of them, and increased the number from 400 to about 900. And we also introduced porridge in schools so that children are able to be retained in schools. We developed a number of ECD centers in education. But I think really the game changer was where the teachers were and where the teachers are now. We also, in education, focus on our TVETs as a county function. None of the 8 TVETs in Kajiado are functioning, and we managed to have all of them functional and began a program we call Tujajiri program, where we were giving youth skills to be able to employ themselves in artisans work like carpentry, masonry, plumbing, and basics work to make sure that these youths are really working. So in terms of education, moving all the teachers from where they were as like personal servants to real teachers of government, doubling the number, introducing that porridge in school, actually attracted many of them to come from their chores and grazing to schools. we saw a massive increase of children enrolling in nursery schools. And so I think really we made a tremendous progress. We're actually the first county to do that. Many counties still think they don't have the resources to employ their teachers on permanent pensionable term. But as Kajiado, we became the pace setter. And so I think really there, I'm very proud to tell the people of Kajiado that their teachers are actually teachers and not caregivers.
Naam, pengine swali hili nataka nikuulize wewe Mheshimiwa David Nkedienye, manake umekuwa gavana miaka 5 iliyotangulia. Katika hii miradi ya kuanzisha shule za mapema ama za chekechea kwa wanafunzi ambayo iligatuliwa, ikawa ni kwamba serikali za county ziweze kujenga shule hizi, ni ngapi wewe uliweza kuzitimiza? Na ikiwa unamwangalia mpinzani wako katika nafasi hiyo ambayo wewe uliitangulia, yeye ametimiza ngapi ama kuna kiwango kimepungua? Ukiangalia kwanza shule ambazo zilitakiwa kujengwa, shule ambazo bado zinaendelea ama zimefungwa kutokana na kwamba jamii zinahamahama, na tatu, fedha zilizotumika katika ujenzi wa shule hizi.
Thank you very much. I'd like to speak in English because I'd like to respond a bit to what Governor Lenku talked about. I like to say it, and this is important to put very straight, that I actually employed more than 500 ECD teachers. They may not have been called teachers, and it's because we had a problem with KNUT, Kenya National Union of Teachers. As a union, they would not allow us to employ teachers because we had to consult them, they had to regulate, they had to interview, and that was a long process. And so we actually started off the whole program as caregivers. And when Governor Lenku came in, he found teachers teaching employed in the system. I wonder what new he did, actually. He cannot claim any credence from that because that was my project. I did it. He found them there. I built 346 ECD classrooms, 346. And I have clear examples. Go to Ngong, you'll find an ECD. You go somewhere else. You know, I can name so many of them. So that was my project, and that is in education. And I like to say that I achieved so much because even in remote areas, Magadi, go to Olkiramatian, the end of Kajiado all the way, go down to Kajiado South, you will find these ECD teachers and ECD classrooms that I built. And I even got a very good design that is actually striking. When you see it, when you move around, you just see very good classrooms that I did. In Kitengela, the Utumishi place, I also started that. So I want to say that that is something that I started, and nobody should take credit for that because it's actually my work.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Nkedienye. Nafikiri Mheshimiwa Ole Metito ama pengine utataka kujibu kwa
I have a small right of reply to make, and I'm actually
kwa dakika moja tu Mheshimiwa, tafadhali. Sorry? Kwa dakika moja tu tafadhali.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that he mentioned Kitengela. Kitengela, or going back, we actually more than double what happened. But specifically, we actually had several areas in Kajiado, and particularly Kajiado is where there were 0 schools. Kitengela itself, the children were going to a school in another constituency, or sorry, another ward, and we built a school from 0 to mitigate that problem. We did the same in Isinya. We did the same in a place called Poka Kenyawa. And so our records for education completely outstrips what had happened before. If you imagine a ward that had no school, and we had to build the school from scratch to completion. The school in Isinya, which the people of Isinya branded Lenku Township School, was a school in a quarter of an acre with 1,000 children. We got them 5 acres, built a complete school. What I spoke about Poka was a place where the last classroom was built by the late Oloi Tip Tip. We did an entire school from scratch. And so our record for education completely outstrips what had happened before. And for one to say we employed the teachers, who employed the teachers? When were the teachers employed? I think there are records in government to show when did the event happen. And that happened in my tenure.
Asante Mheshimiwa. Asante.
Thank you, Governor Lenku. Let's move on to Honorable Ole Metito, just to find out what you want to do in terms of uplifting ECD in the county.
Thank you. First of all, the ECDs that my friends are talking about. One, ECD, the early childhood education system, from the devolution time up to around 2-3 years ago, there were supposed to be 3 classrooms. That was, you had PP1, PP2, I think, then the nursery, they're supposed to be 3 before we went to the CBD, CBC curriculum. But I want to tell you, there is nowhere where they built 3 classrooms for ECD. The much they were doing were 2. So where was the 3rd one? Secondly, 90%, at least in my constituency, 90% of these structures are incomplete. 90%. I can say confidently, 90% are incomplete. Secondly, even right now, if you try to redo them, actually, if you build a building and you don't use it for over 5 years, definitely it will even be cheaper to do it afresh. The other thing is about this training or the hiring of teachers. The problem we had is that these teachers have not been hired professionally. They've been hired politically. It depends on who knows who. So definitely, why don't you open it up and let those who undertook those courses to professionally compete for them on merit. So and finally, this issue of what we no longer use in the county is what is called early warning system for drought. Our county is an arid or a semi-arid county. And definitely there before, we used to have early warning system where you can predict as government that there is going to be drought and you need to prepare for them. This movement of pastoralists, you need to know it earlier, and that you need to provide food, maybe porridge as they said, and provide it adequately. And again, you also need to put a stipend on these ECDs. They're not for free. They're charging. Kids are paying. So why not chip in? If you just provide food or that porridge, and then you have teachers, but the parents are still paying some school fees for that ECD,
okay.
then it will not have actually the whole retention as required.
Thank you, Honorable Ole Metito. Let's go to Mr. Nganga. You've heard some of the challenges that the candidate has raised there in terms of lacking adequate ECD classrooms, most of the structures still incomplete. What challenges or gaps have you noticed in ECD, and how would you want to fill them?
Thank you. In ECD, we have a lot of challenges. When we come to Kajiado is rural and urban. And these 2 areas, you cannot make them equal in needs and wants, and especially for those classrooms. Because you find, especially where it is urban, it's the densely populated area. You come to areas like Ongatarungai, Kiserian, Ngong, and Kitengera. The population is quite very high. So when you try to equalize the constructions of those ECD classrooms with any other area outside those areas, then you are doing it wrong. We need to have equal and equality share of construction. That means if their resources are shared, they should be equal. Now, when you come to those areas, you find there are no classrooms. That area is a cosmopolitan, but it's mostly neglected. And most of the children from those areas, I'm finding them, they are those ones who are not able to take their children to ECD. They have a lot of problems, especially the poor ones, because most of those schools in those areas, they are private schools in the ECD. So we need to do some construction of classes, especially those areas. And even in the other areas, when you find ECD is the foundation of education, because that is where we need to put our Kajiado very strongly, starting with a good foundation of education so that you can bring our children to better education. But when you go to those areas, in rural areas, we find that children are really suffering. One thing, the classrooms are there, a few of them, they are not enough. The other thing, those children are always sent for rearing the livestock instead of bringing them to the class. You find there is, when it is the time like when the drought is there, the children are hungry. They need to be assisted. So those are the things we really need to do.
Na asante sana, bila shaka umeweza kufafanua katika dakika mbili. Wagombea kiti cha ugavana hivi sasa tunakwenda mapumzikoni kidogo tu mtazamaji, lakini tutarejea, manake tutakuwa tumezungumzia swala la elimu, lakini baada ya elimu tutakuwa tunageukia masuala ya vijana na vile vile hata masuala ya ajira na kadhalika, sekta nyingi tu. Usiondoke hapo mtazamaji, tunarejea hivi punde.